At the end of lesson 5.1, we learned how to add, subtract, and multiply polynomials. 5.2, the whole lesson is about dividing polynomials. When you have a polynomial being divided by a monomial, it's pretty easy. You just take everything in the numerator and divide it by the monomial on the bottom. And you can even skip this first step if you can just look at it and divide them one by one, but I will write it out. So you just make sure that every term in the numerator gets divided by the monomial on the bottom. So the first fraction would become 3k, and there's an extra m on the bottom. Second fraction becomes, looks like nothing's left on the bottom, so it'll be 6k squared, and then plus 9 over 2, extra k on the bottom, and an extra m on the top. All right, and I taught you guys to put things in a certain order. So k comes before m, so we should put things in order by k. So negative 6k squared has the highest exponent for k. This middle term has an exponent of 1 for k, and then when k is on the bottom, that means its exponent is negative 1. Okay, for number 2, we learned that if something has a negative exponent, you can move it to the bottom and make the exponent positive. So I'm just going to get rid of this now. Also, notice that in the numerator, these have the same exponent, so that means they are like terms. And so we can combine like terms before we divide. Okay, so whenever there's a monomial on the bottom, just make sure that everything in the numerator gets divided by that. So first I'm going to divide this by 4a. That would be a squared. Then I'm going to divide this. So that would be minus 7/4 a. Okay, now we're going to learn 2 ways to do division when you have a polynomial on the bottom. So not just one term on the bottom, but 2 or more. Focusing on 2 today. So one method is long division. So let's quickly review how to do long division. I'll just choose some random numbers. Okay, so we'll review long division by taking 5,084 and dividing it by 15. All right, so if you recall, first thing you do is you try to put 15 into 5, but 15 is bigger than 5, so then you try to put 15 into 50. 15 goes into 50 3 times. So the first step is to divide 50 by 15. So I'll write the steps on the side. Step 1, divide. And then you multiply. 3 times 15 is 45. Then you subtract. $50 minus 45 is 5. And then you bring down. So we bring down the 8. Now we start over. So it's divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Then you start over. 58 divided by 15, that is also 3. Then you multiply. Multiply the 3 you just wrote on top with the 15. You get 45. Then you subtract again. So 58 minus 45 is 13. divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. 15 goes into 134 almost 9 times, so 8 times. 8 times 15 is 120. Subtract again, and you get 14 this time. And so if there's nothing left to bring down, this is your remainder. And I'm going to write the remainder a little differently. I'm not going to write R, and I'm not going to write 14/15 next to it. I'm going to write plus, just because this is how you're going to do it for a polynomial, and then the remainder divided by the thing we were dividing, 15. So remember the steps: divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, so first let's rewrite this using long division form. W plus 3 goes outside. Then all of these terms go on the inside. Okay, so the first thing you do is when you're doing the first step of dividing, you just look at the first term here and the first term here. So you take 3w cubed and divide by w. That gives you 3w squared. I like to write it above its like term, even though we didn't use the 7w squared yet. So divide the first term inside by the first term outside, and then write the quotient on top above its like term. All right, after you divide, you multiply. So now we're going to multiply what we just wrote on top with the entire denominator. So if I multiply that, I get 3w cubed plus 9w squared. Okay, now I subtract both of these. So the first column should cancel out. If you're not able to get it, so the first column cancels out, then you did something wrong when you were dividing. 7w squared minus 9w squared is negative 2w squared. And now we bring down. You bring down the next term and start over, divide. And again, when you divide, you only look at the first term and the other first term. So that would be negative 2w squared divided by w is negative 2w. And when you write something on top, then you multiply by the w plus 3. So that would be negative 2w squared minus 6w. Put parentheses and subtract. The first two terms cancel out. We have negative 4w plus 6w, which is 2w. Bring this down. And we divide again. So we divide the 2w. We divide this 2w by the w over here. And you get 2. Multiply the 2 you just wrote on top with the w plus 3. You get 2w plus 6. Subtract those. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. And so this is our remainder. So we write the remainder. Usually we write plus, but since it's negative, we write minus 3 over, and then the denominator was w plus 3. Okay, so usually when you do math, your answer is at the bottom. But when you do long division, your answer is at the top. And just ignore the circle around the 3w squared. Okay, I'm going to show you guys another way to do the same problem. This is called synthetic division. Okay, so with synthetic division, first thing I do is I make this kind of sideways L, sideways and backwards L. And you need to make it big enough to fit 2 rows of writing. I'll show you what I mean. And then I put like a little ledge here. All right, so look at the denominator. What would make that equal 0? -3 would make that equal 0. So I write -3 here. Then you look at the numerator, and on the inside of the box, you just write the coefficients. So 3, 7, -4, +3. So I got that from these coefficients. Okay, the steps for synthetic division are bring down and then multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So bring down the first number inside. Then you're just going to do multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Multiply is when you take the number on the bottom and you multiply by the number out here. So 3 times -3 is -9. You write the -9 here. Now you add 7 and -9, and you get -2. Whenever you write a number on the bottom, it gets multiplied with the -3 on the outside. So -2 times -3 is +6. Then we add -4 plus 6 is 2. The number 2 on the bottom gets multiplied with the -3. 2 times -3 is -6. Then we add again and we get -3. Okay, the bottom. Those are the coefficients of the answer. So notice the original problem had a degree of 3. So your answer, if you're dividing by something with the degree of 1, your answer should be degree of 2. Synthetic division only works if what you're dividing by has an exponent of 1. So w plus 3, I should say, has a degree of 1. Has a degree of 1 because w is to the first power. And so the answer will always have a degree 1 below the numerator. So we take these numbers and we write it starting with w squared. The next one goes with w to the first. The next number is the constant. And the last number is the remainder and has to be put above the denominator. We got the same answer as before. I think most people like synthetic division because usually it goes a little faster. Okay, I'll do number 4 both ways again, and then on the back I'll choose my methods. All right, so if I do this using long division, one thing I have to be careful of is they skip a bunch of powers in the numerator. So I'm going to put what are called placeholders, b cubed plus 0b squared plus 0b to the first, and then the constant is plus 27. Okay, I'm going to do this one a little faster. Remember the steps: divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So first thing I do, b cubed divided by b is b squared. Now I multiply b squared with b plus 3, b cubed plus 3b squared. Now I subtract these. I get -3b squared. Bring down one term. And start over. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So now I divide -3b squared by b. So that would be -3b. Remember, when you divide, it's only the first term by the first term. And whenever you write something on top, now you multiply with the denominator. Negative 3b squared minus 9b, subtract. You get 9b, and after you subtract, you bring down. Okay, divide. So divide the 9b on the bottom by the b in the denominator, and you get plus 9. Multiply the 9 on top with the denominator, you get 9b plus 27. All right, because those are the same, when you subtract it, it will be 0. And that just means there is no remainder, so this is our answer. You know you're done when there's nothing left to bring down. Okay, I'm going to do the same problem, but using synthetic division. Okay, so I make this thing, little ledge here. What would make this equal 0? Negative 3. And then on the inside, put the coefficients, but you need placeholders. Anytime they skip a power on the variable, you need placeholders. So there is 1b cubed. There are 0b squares. There's 0b to the first. And then a number without a variable means the variable is to the 0 power. So this was b to the third, b squared, b to the first, b to the 0. All right, so the steps here are bring down. Now multiply 1 and negative 3. You get negative 3. Now add 0 and negative 3. You get negative 3. Multiply the negative 3's together. You get positive 9. 0 plus 9 is 9. Negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. These are the coefficients. Okay, so usually I separate the remainder. And if the remainder is 0, we don't need it. So we have 1b squared. Not going to write the 1. Minus 3b to the first plus 9. And remember, the answer always starts 1 degree lower. And you're only allowed to use synthetic division if this has a degree of 1. Okay, on the back side, remember that exponent negative 1 just means you can move it to the bottom and make it a positive exponent. So I'm going to get rid of this. Now it's on the bottom with an exponent of 1. All right, let's try long division again. So first you divide 6y squared by 2y. That gives you 3y. Multiply 3y with the denominator. That's 6y squared plus 9y. Subtract. The 6y squares cancel out. Negative 5y minus 9y is negative 14y. And bring down negative 15. Okay, start over. Divide. Negative 14y divided by 2y is negative 7. Multiply the negative 7 with the denominator, negative 14y minus 21, and subtract. The negative 14y's cancel out. Negative 15 plus 21 is 6. And that's your remainder, so you write it with a plus, and then 6 goes over the denominator. Okay, If you want to do that problem with synthetic division, it's a little different. So I think I should show you what's different. First, decide what makes the denominator, what would make that equal 0. Negative 3 over 2 would make the denominator 0. So now we write the coefficients on the inside. 6 goes with y squared. Negative 5 goes with y to the first. And negative 15 goes with y to the 0. Okay, so remember the last number is going to be your remainder. I'm going to separate that now. So we bring down. Now I multiply. Negative 3 over 2 times 6. That would be negative 9. I add negative 5 and negative 9. That makes negative 14. Negative 14 times negative 3 over 2 would be positive 21. Then you get 6. All right, because the denominator had a number that was not 1 in front, what you have to do is take these coefficients here. Don't do it to the remainder. Take these coefficients and divide by the number that was in front of y. So we're going to divide these by 2. So we get 3, negative 7. The remainder stays the same. And so now we get the same answer. Your answer starts 1 degree lower than this. So it's 3y minus 7y to the 0, technically, plus 6 is your remainder. And so the reason that we had to divide is because when you see this here on the ledge, synthetic division thinks that this was the denominator. But the denominator was really double of that. So we actually divided by something bigger than synthetic division thought. So we have to divide these numbers to make them smaller. Okay, so now that you guys are getting the hang of it, hopefully you're good with long division after having seen 3 examples. I'm going to do synthetic because that's my preferred method. Remember, synthetic only works if this has a degree of 1. All right, so what would make the part I circled equal 0? That would be if t was negative 1/3. And then I write the coefficients. Make sure they don't skip anything. This is t cubed. This is t squared. This is t to the first. And then a constant means t is to the 0. Okay, bring down. And then multiply with the negative 1/3. Add. Multiply with the negative 1/3. 3 times negative 1/3 is negative 1. Add. Multiply negative 1/3 and negative 3. You get positive 1 and 2. 2 is your remainder. Remember that your answer starts 1 degree lower. So this was t cubed, so we start t squared. However, don't forget that there was a number in front of t, and we have to divide all of these by that number, but not the remainder. So divide those all by 3. We would get 2, 1, negative 1, and the remainder stays the same. So let's write the answer over here. We start with t squared because it's 1 lower. 2t squared plus 1t minus 1. And then your remainder is 2. And that goes above 3t plus 1. Okay, we have one more word problem. The area of a triangle is, so let's recall the formula for area of a triangle. Area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. We have the area as a polynomial. We have the base, and we're finding the height. So this is the area that they give. The base was also given as 6x squared minus 2, and we don't know the height. Okay, so let's multiply the 1/2 to the parentheses. We have 3x squared minus 1. This gets multiplied to the height. And so now it's pretty clear. We have to divide this long polynomial by 3x squared minus 1. So so now we don't have a choice with the method. We have to use long division. And the reason we have to use long division, this denominator has degree 2. You're only allowed to use synthetic when the degree for the denominator is 1. Okay, so first step is divide. So we divide 15x to the 4th divided by 3x squared, and we get 5x squared. So I'll write that over here. Divide, now multiply 5x squared with the denominator. You get 15x to the 4th minus 5x squared. Notice where I wrote it. So now I have to subtract these. The x to the 4th terms cancel out. 3x to the 3rd has nothing to subtract with. And then the x squared terms have 4x squared plus 5x squared. So that's 9x squared. All right, so I still need to bring down a term after I subtract. Okay, so we have 3x cubed divided by 3x squared. That makes 1x. X times 3x squared is 3x cubed. And then we still have to do x times -1. That is negative x. But I'm going to write it underneath its like term. Okay, sorry, I have to go off the screen a little bit. So, subtracting all of these, you get 9x squared. And then the x's cancel out. 9x squared, and then these cancel out because negative x plus x. Bring down the -3. And it looks like we're going to have no remainder. So the 9x squared on the bottom gets divided by 3x squared on the side. That is +3. Okay, multiply the 3 on top with the numbers on the bottom. 9x squared minus 3. Subtract. There is no remainder. So your answer is on the top. Do we have units? Let's check. The units are meters. Okay, that's it for this lesson.